All right, welcome. Hi, Ronica. How you doing today?
Hi, Al. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. I appreciate your time. You and I met on Inc. What is it called? Inc.com.
The Inc. Leadership
The Inc.
Forum.
Leadership Forum. Yes, you're right. And you and I talked about PR and digital PR. I thought it would be a good idea for you to come to our little podcast and maybe talk about that a little bit. But before we get to it, if you don't mind introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, your company, that would be great.
I love that. I'm Ronica Cleary. I'm the founder and CEO of Cleary Strategies. We're a full service public relations agency. I started it in 2018 after a career in television journalism.
Oh, wow. Cool. What did you do for television?
So I was most recently a White House correspondent based in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I started Cleary Strategies, I thought we might have a little bit more of a political focus,
Yeah.
but covering politics as a journalist is really different than working in politics as a communications professional. And I learned that very quickly. And I learned that it just wasn't a good fit. So now we are a nonpartisan agency and we don't really work with any clients at the time in politics. And it's fantastic.
Yeah. I hear you. Awesome. Thank you for your time again. What is PR? What is public relation? Because I've heard different definitions of it, and some people think PR is just sending a press release. I'm like, no, there's more to that. So if you don't mind, as a PR expert, if you don't mind explaining that, that would be great.
No, I think it is so important. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot. And there's also, I've been referencing this more recently. There's an impression of what publicists are and what they do in like television and in Hollywood. And I don't know that it's completely accurate. It's very sexy and glamorous, which it can be. But public relations is basically understanding and helping clients navigate their relationship and their presence with the public through media, right? So it's however your presence as a brand, as a founder, as an executive, or as a business or product is perceived with the public and the relations that you have with the public on behalf of that. And then you hire PR or PR support to help you navigate that relationship through earned media. Sometimes it's paid media, sometimes advertising can sometimes fall under the umbrella. There are like 50 ways to manage that relationship with the public. And that's where I think a lot of the confusion comes from. But really, in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Yeah. So it's not just about doing the work, but just being basically the representative that talks to the media on behalf of a company.
Yeah. And many times that is the founder or the CEO, but a lot of companies, especially not really, I don't know that the size necessarily matters because of any
Mhm.
size company, you could have a spokesperson, but and many founders will say, look, I don't want to be the spokesperson, the representative anymore. I don't want the brand to be me anymore. I want it to be somebody else, or I want to separate from that. So, who speaks on behalf of that brand or who conveys those messages with the public can change and vary dramatically based on the strategy and incentives of the business. And a good PR professional can help you think through that and help you decide strategically what makes the most sense for who speaks on behalf of your brand or business or whatever it may be that you need PR for.
Got it. So you basically consult with them to figure out if they have the right person within the company to represent them. If not, you help them hire someone, right?
Most people come to us and they know
Really?
who they want, right? They
Yeah.
have it ready. Very rarely, but sometimes we will maybe give a potential client some advice that we think that perhaps this isn't the
Got it.
right strategy or approach. But you have to navigate that really carefully because many times it's very personal, right?
Yeah.
And while of course it's our job to give people strategic advice, we also have to, when you're doing PR, when you're speaking on behalf of a brand or product or business, especially when it's you're the founder, it's not just a business decision, it's a personal decision as well. And so it's very important that publicists understand how to navigate that within that framework. And we we want business, but we want what's best for theirs. And I don't know, it's complicated, right? It can be complicated because of the fact that it can feel very personal for a person. So I didn't answer that directly, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Just following up on that, what type of companies need public relation? Is it very well funded Fortune 500 companies? Is it startups? Is it owner operators? Just
So it could be any size company or any industry. Again, I think this creates a lot of confusion about PR, and it also creates some of the misconceptions, and it also makes it hard to know who to hire, because a lot of publicists will say, I'm industry agnostic, or I can support all types of clients. But really, at the end of the day, like, you invariably will have a niche. But I think companies that are looking to be funded, having great press for the product or vision that you have can be a wonderful way to approach potential investors. If you're a Fortune 500 company, you obviously need a PR strategy and plan. If you're just a small business, having a PR strategy can be strategic and well positioned and a good investment. So it's about having conversations about where PR will take you. Is PR about just is it an exercise in ego where your founder just likes to be on TV? That's okay. That's what it can be. Or is it something that's really strategic and purposeful, like a path towards getting investors or getting funding, or a crisis planning? Especially with those Fortune 500 companies, maybe that PR strategy is about not getting in the news and not getting media attention, and how can we navigate that on their behalf? So there are, I think, one of the most important and unexpected aspects of hiring a PR professional is trust and how well you work together and the relationship, because it really can feel quite personal, and you need to trust not just, oh, I have good contacts or relationships. You have to trust. I say there's a lot of creativity in public relations people don't realize, and there is a lot of strategy behind the pitching and planning. So you want to really trust that team or agency, or even if you hire an individual, that they have a vision that's aligned with yours, but they'll also tell you the truth if they think maybe something is not in your best interest.
Got it. How do you get those companies to follow your guidance, your procedure, and rather than, because I feel as a we do quote unquote digital PR as part of our services, just geared toward SEO and AEO and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And I noticed just even that a lot of times getting clients aligned with a tone of voice, a person to represent you when we're sending out press releases, stuff like that, I find it to be challenging. They're very inconsistent. How do you enforce that with your clients?
Right. Stakeholder management, right? That's
Yeah.
the PR term
Right.
for it.
Yeah. Sure.
I think it can be challenging. I think it's important to establish from the beginning of the relationship with a potential client or client. That's an important part of what we do. Some people do feel like they know everything. Sometimes it's about people just learn sometimes the hard way. But I think if you establish from the beginning, your role as a publicist is not just to bring them a placement. It's so much more than that. Whereas if they come to you and say, I want to be on CNN, I want to be on Fox News, from that moment, when you open the conversation and explain that this process is so much more complicated and there's so much more to a successful PR campaign than one placement on Good Morning America. Education and stakeholder management are very important. And also, I think interpersonal skills and communication matter in any business that you run. We're both entrepreneurs and founders. And so you learn over time, right? And there are certainly times where you'll have a client that you can feel frustrated with the decision that they make, and you just try to guide them from that. Maybe if you see that maybe nothing went wrong, maybe you disagreed with the decision and the PR plan worked out the way they wanted it, and you maybe take a little internal assessment of why it worked out. And if it didn't, how can you confront the client and talk to them about that? But it is a balance. And another thing that we do now that we didn't do in the beginning, we now do a pretty formal period of discovery with our clients before we start pitching. So when I started Cleary Strategies, we would assess if a client seemed pitchable and to be a good fit. And we would just dive in, right? And as we were pitching, we'd ask questions or uncover little issues or disagreements in maybe how we'd approach something. Now we have a very formal and structured period of discovery. And what that has done for us is, I think that has taken away a lot of any sort of issue or miscommunication gets resolved before we're in the field, if you will, sending the pitches. We're building our content themes, our pillars, our tentative pitching list. We're doing all of this with the client in tandem and working together, and then agreeing on that framework. We're learning where we might have different ideas and visions and addressing them. Of course, you're always adjusting that and changing it over time and over the relationship of the engagement. But I think that has really helped us to start off on a much steadier foot. 30 days in, when that period of discovery is completed, we are diving in complete alignment. And that has really transformed that idea of like stakeholder management. That has actually really improved it.
That's actually good because I'm learning that the hard way. I like to have quick onboarding and then slowly, because there's a lot of stuff going on with what we do. And I've noticed a lot of times that just gets too noisy for the clients. It's better to get it all done at the beginning and then just run with it.
Yeah, and I used to feel all this pressure to do this quick onboarding and deliver results immediately. And what I realized is those expectations and deadlines were really in my head.
Yeah.
And that most clients are actually, and especially again, it's about setting those expectations before you even sign a contract, explaining this.
Having the right clients, that actually can work with.
Yeah. And setting that from the beginning has really transformed things. So I have no interest in a quick onboarding, and it's not about wasting time. It's actually a much more efficient strategy and approach to a longer term, more mutually like agreed upon foundation and relationship that I think can make for a much longer client engagement, because everybody says, oh yeah, we talked about that, we agreed to that, or we disagreed on that, so we went this way, or it just makes for an open dialogue from the get-go, and then we can work and they know what we're doing because they were a
Yeah.
part of the whole process and the foundation of the account. So I actually have a call after this. We're in that discovery phase and we're going to go over where things are and making sure we're aligned. So that's my next call today.
Cool. That's great. You mentioned something about outbound versus inbound press strategy or management. What is that? I've never heard that.
Yeah. So I think, look, of course, I think we're a great PR agency, one of the best.
Of course,
I
yeah.
think a lot of PR agencies rely on what would be called more of an inbound strategy. So, an inbound strategy, there's a lot of great tools out there in the industry that journalists will use. It's brilliant entrepreneurial creativity and tech that came up with these ideas, because there was a disconnect between journalists looking for sources and publicists representing sources. So, there are a lot of amazing tools out there where journalists will access these tools and databases, post the queries and sources that they're looking for. And that's what I would call like an inbound strategy. They kind of land in your lap, right? We know that journalists are looking for a source to talk about X, Y, or Z. Does that match our client roster? We respond, right? That's like waiting for the perfect press moment for your client.
Yeah.
And I think what that creates is an opportunity for some great strategically aligned wins. Because if that journalist is looking for your client, that's awesome. But what happens is, yeah, you have those great wins. You can have some really slow times. You're at the mercy of the news cycle, which is inevitably part of public relations. The news cycle does dictate a lot of what we do, but it doesn't have to control your entire account. And so we have really strategic and thoughtful outbound strategies on behalf of our entire roster of clients. And so every month we sit down as a team internally, we look at our roster of clients like before the next month starts. And we say, okay, what can we anticipate in the news cycle? What do we know is going to happen? What is the zeitgeist right now? What are people talking about? What's trending? And then how can we tie our clients to that so that we can dive in on the first of the next month or whenever we start our next round of pitches, our next set of strategy, and we can anticipate what we think journalists might be looking for, and we can get to them before we're sitting there waiting for that moment to land in our inbox with that perfect journalist pitch looking for a source. And so we have found this of course, we would be foolish not to look at those inbound requests. And we also have newsrooms and bookers and producers that just come to us. They're not even using those tools. They just say, we know Cleary Strategies has a great roster and we trust them. We need someone to talk about X, Y, and Z today. Do you have it? That's a great part of running an established PR firm. However, it is not a long-term PR strategy. We have formalizing and systematizing our outbound strategy of building our pitches regularly, looking at the news cycle and working as a team in anticipation of each month allows us to better manage like a more even set of press results for our clients versus, oh, you had all these hits last month and oh, no one's talking about what you talk about. So now we have nothing for 60 days. It's just not an acceptable like approach or way to manage an account.
Yeah, that makes sense. It kind of reminds me of marketing higher funnel, lower funnel, or lower funnel is people are searching for your product right now. and then but you also have to have a plan to get people into the funnel. So it's very similar comparison if you agree.
I'm not. I never heard of that before because I'm not a marketer.
Yeah, sure.
But see,
Yeah,
okay.
just basically, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, people think, oh, it's PR. She does marketing. We don't. Like, that's
No,
a great example to like
right.
how PR is different. We don't do that kind of thing.
Let's talk about that. How is PR different than marketing? Let's just establish that in like a couple of sentences. Because people ask us for greater PR. I'm like, hey, we can get you placement on other websites possibly, but we're not a PR company.
So marketing is where you're controlling the message, the narrative, and where the placement occurs completely, start to finish. And that is great. And if I can loosely, as a publicist, like I'm sure marketing professionals and advertising professionals will be horrified. If I can loosely combine those two industries, in marketing and advertising, you're dictating and controlling the output completely. But the argument publicists make is that the viewer, the audience, like the potential customer, knows that, right? So they might look at it and approach it with a little more skepticism because they know that you have drafted this beautiful advertisement or marketing material or pamphlet or flyer that you have made and control from start to finish. PR is always through a third party decision maker, which is the media, at least in our case, right? We do all earned media for our clients. And so we make the argument that the potential customer is going to view it as like slightly more impressive and venerable and meaningful because we did not pay for that opportunity to be the expert on TV. We did not pay for the opportunity to be the source or the commentator on this big headline. And so we tell our clients that your potential customer is going to view that totally differently and value that in a different way. They're all very important strategies to grow a business. And I would be foolish and lying if I said advertising and marketing don't matter and they don't have value. But I think that distinction of how we as a potential customer view them, if you're on the news, we know you didn't pay to be on the news. If you're the used car salesman on the commercial in between the news segments, we know that you did. So we're just going to view those experiences and conversations differently. And the human will interpret them in varying degrees of trust, like, know, and trust. And you have to decide where you want to be in that kind of like media world.
Got it. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Cool. I'm gonna skip, a couple of those bullet points that you and I had discussed before this call. I want to jump into SEO because and AEO and GEO because it looks like there's a new there's a new like demand for PR and digital PR in particular because
Yes.
it fuels AI LLMs, it fuels AI, and I've seen it firsthand when we again quote unquote we do digital PR, which we help our clients with placements on other websites that's relevant to them, and we do it fairly free. There might be some fees involved too, but we don't really pay per placement. I've noticed when we do that, or even when we send press releases over the wires, they start showing up more in the AI overviews. We use various different SEO tools to track their visibility in ChatGPT or Gemini. Their visibility also improves, and it to me it seems AI looks at PR like how Google used to look at backlinks.
Yeah.
AI looks at your not PR, look at your brand mentions and sentiment. I should say that more at like how Google used to look at backlinks. Do you have what does your data say about, and is that something you guys also offer?
I say that AI has been a great thing for public relations for sure. And
Okay.
it's transformed the way we have conversations because not only do those LLMs value like brand mentions and media placements, but they also value brand mentions in sometimes smaller outlets and publications that used
Yeah,
to like overlooked as not meaningful.
sure.
So the LLMs value the media coverage and the brand mention in media articles, in local journalism, in local news and digital publications. It, it's great. It's
Yeah.
very meaningful and it's real. And so that has helped us when we're having conversations because at the end of the day, you invest in public relations, you think, okay, When am I going to be on ABC World News Tonight, right? You want to be on the biggest name thing. But here's like the ironic thing about that. If you are on a segment on a major national news program and then there's no digital write-up of your segment on their website, does it even matter?
Yeah.
Now, yes, it does matter because you will have the visual, you will have we provide all of our clients with their clippings, right? There is a great amount of like value. I'd say it's like sex appeal. Who doesn't want to be on TV and have those awesome clips of themselves as that talking head and expert on behalf of their business or brand or book or whatever it is they've created? Of course, there's tremendous value in that you just cannot replicate. However, there is also now more so than ever a tremendous amount of value from being quoted like in a local news publication where that is posted online, right? So it just helps when it comes to LLMs and even still SEO, it still matters because it's a backlink strategy. We always say we're not an SEO agency, but everything we do on behalf of our clients, we think through the lens of SEO and now GEO so that we're making sure we get those backlinks whenever possible and those brand mentions for our clients. I think what it does is it doesn't eliminate the value of those very sexy, very meaningful television placements where you are on TV, you're getting great content for your LinkedIn feed, you're getting great content for your newsletters, and then the people who are watching are seeing you. Of course, all that still matters. What it does is it helps us say all these other things really matter too. And so we can actually have a more robust, meaningful, complete strategy for you and give you even more results across more media platforms. Really dive into podcast pitching is a huge part of our client strategy now, as well as digital publications and of course classic TV. So
Yeah.
it helps us have more to work with on behalf of our clients so we can give them more results, better results, and show those results across different types of goals and strategies that the client may have in place, which now definitely include showing up on LLMs.
Got it. That actually makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited too about this new era of SEO. To tell you the truth, because I've been doing SEO for like more than I had planned, more like over 2 decades now, and I didn't like the link building part of SEO. It was fake. It felt like it wasn't natural. There was nobody naturally ever wants to link to you unless you really have this compelling data and amazing story. And that would have been PR, and that would have been you. You had
And
to go ahead.
in there with the link building strategy with PR, there are media outlets and publications that they have like an editorial or newsroom standard where they won't do backlinks.
Yeah, they don't like CNN is one.
We're not doing a backlink. And then you
Right.
think, again, you still have the value of getting the placement, getting the visual, because we make
Sure.
sure our clients get the clips and do all that from start to finish. But you can't, the like weird web world of backlink strategy sometimes that would exist in SEO could be really off-putting, but then you can't force it in earned media because we're not paying for the placement. We can't say you must
100%.
put a link because we didn't pay them. It's an earned media placement. So
Sure.
they all work together. And I agree with you. This new age feels like it could be really powerful and feel really good and aligned in a way
Yeah.
that feels more authentic and
Yeah.
meaningful.
That's how SEO should have been, but obviously Google didn't have the data. The traditional search engines didn't have the data to determine that. Now, because of the large language models, they understand sentiments a little bit better, so they can actually rate. That is interesting because I see, I say this story all the time. I was in Lake Arrowhead looking for independent coffee shops near me because I don't like to go to the chain ones unless I have to.
Okay.
And I'm a coffee drinker. I looked for one, and the one that showed up didn't even have a proper SEO friendly website. I think it showed up because people were talking good about it, and maybe they probably had a placement on a local publication
Uh-huh.
that they had a few good reviews, but I don't think it was just the reviews. I think there was just a lot of good chatter about that
I
coffee.
see,
So
I
I
see.
think that's really what helped them to rank in my perplexity. Because when I went on a website, I'm like, ooh, like this website is not SEO friendly at all. It had nothing to do with the website. It had everything to do with what people say about them.
Well, that's cool. I love that. And isn't that
Yeah,
what it's all about? Like, really, at the end of the day, we want to find the best service or product, right? You think
sure.
like my publicist is supposed to help me get there, but ideally, you're only earning media attention or ranking highly on these places because you actually have a great product or service. But some of the systems before, you're just like tricking the system, and you're really just doing these weird things to rank, and
Yeah.
I'm people see through it.
So let me ask you another question. Let's just say you're doing great job as a PR strategist, publicist, but your client product just sucks. Or they have poor customer service and they're getting a lot of negative reviews.
Oh, I see.
Or there are things that's just not so good about the product or services. As a
Okay.
PR professional, how do you go about that?
Okay. It may not be the best sales tactic, but in every new potential client call, we say that we choose our clients as much as they choose us. So
Mhm.
it is extremely important. Going back to what I said earlier, the idea that newsrooms and bookers and producers will sometimes not even use those tech tools. They will just come to us directly and say, we trust Cleary Strategies. Who do you have to help us with this story? Who do you have to help us answer this query? Who can be on the 5 o'clock news today? We cannot mess around putting clients on our roster that would damage that reputation. So
Yeah,
look, we could certainly make a mistake and we could end up with a client that it's maybe not a good fit, or we learn
gotcha.
things about the product that are not good. But it's very important that we do our due diligence before we sign an agreement or begin an engagement. And so I haven't had that experience.
Yeah,
We are very thoughtful about who we bring on our client roster because it really reflects on us if we're sending out people who are not who they say they are, or products or brands or
sure.
whatever that are not good. So we have to think about that long before they're our client, or we could hurt our reputation. Because I always say our mission is twofold. We don't just serve our clients, we actually serve the media.
Sure.
So when we
That's good.
think about our mission, it's not just the client is always right. It's also how can we be a great source and connector to media outlets and bookers and producers and reporters, that we can be a connector in that way versus being like a naggy publicist that says, please put our clients on TV. We never want to think about that. So if we have done our homework and built a client roster that's really impressive and amazing, when we say an amazing client roster, Cleary Strategies, we say that based on research and knowledge and experience of who we have agreed to partner with, if you will, then we can fulfill both of those missions, which is to serve our clients and to serve the media in a thoughtful and meaningful way and be a reliable source.
Cool. That's a great answer.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's good to be in a position of not to take clients because you don't get aligned. But a lot of times, what I've noticed is that the client is doing good, but maybe some a part of the company isn't doing so well, and
Mm,
it's impacting because we do a lot of like online reputation management where we have this client that is we're working their SEO and they're still not ranking, and we see they have all these negative reviews on Google or other places. They're like, oh, we need to do some sort of positive review generation. So that's we help them with drip campaigns and things like that. But at the end of the day, people we cannot force people to
yeah.
leave good
I mean,
reviews.
at
And
the end of the day, we can't lie in our pitches. We can't lie about who they are. Now, to be clear, we do crisis planning and management. People,
tell us a little bit about that. Yeah,
we don't just we like PR is not just for the best and the brightest, right?
yeah,
It's reasonable to seek and get a public relations professional help you navigate crisis. Now, the way we navigate crisis for our clients is strictly in their relationship with the media. So we're not going to write your internal memos or do your internal comms. If you're a CEO that's done something bad, you need to work with your internal comms team on how you want to address that with your team. We can give you advice and guidance, but that's not our expertise. Our
sure.
expertise is in how to navigate that with the media and how to weather the storm and get through it on the other side. And I guess what I just want to clarify is that the client doesn't have to be perfect, but we have to understand and know that the things that we're pitching and saying on behalf of that client, or the claims that they make about their products or services or expertise, they have to be backed up and accurate and true. And because that's where we could really get to hurting ourselves. But if we're providing advice on how to handle or prepare for a media interview when there's bad things out there about them, we can still do that. But that is a relationship with the media that's completely different. So when I answer that previous question, that's really through the lens of just traditional earned media. You're trying to generate positive press, you're trying to promote your business, but crisis management and communication with media, we are excellent at that. I'm a former White House correspondent. I know exactly how reporters try to trap you. I know exactly what they're going for. I know exactly how they're trying to make headlines. Many of the people on my team are former journalists. So that's really fun and different. But we're not then trying to pitch those clients with spin or lies or something misleading and say, put them on for this. We don't want to open with the bad stuff, but we can help them figure out how to navigate that crisis. So it's just a different thing and a different experience. So does that I think
Yeah, it
that
does.
just makes
It does.
sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I don't want to ask which administration were you serving in the White House.
So I didn't serve in administration. I was a reporter.
Oh, you just reported. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I was in the White House press corps. No,
Oh, you were in the press corps. Got it.
I was
I
in the press
misunderstood.
corps.
Got it.
Yeah, totally. I covered the first Trump administration, covered Sean Spicer and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. But I was there as a journalist.
Okay.
That's what I mean, though. I understand how journalists, who really on paper, it's supposed to be a neutral profession, but they have a responsibility when you think about the modern landscape of media today. They need to generate headlines. They need to generate clickable, interesting content. It's not about walking out of a press briefing and saying there's no news. That is really useless to a newsroom, right? So
Sure.
journalists go into those opportunities and into those press briefings or into a press conference with a seat. Let's say, take it out of politics, take it out of Washington, with your company's CEO, right?
Yeah.
With your key spokesperson, with whoever that might be. Their goal is to generate news. And because that I understand that deeply, and many of the people on my team do, we can better coach and guide a CEO who is behind that podium, preparing for those questions to say, you need to understand this journalist is trying to get a headline out of you. They're trying to make news in the question that they ask. So how can we help you prepare for that? So that's where the skill comes from. I didn't work for an administration. I covered an administration. That's an important distinction. So I'm actually really glad you asked that, because I wouldn't want someone to, I'm not making a political statement, but that's not what I did. I was a journalist.
Got it. That's amazing. And much respect for you.
Thank you.
I guess I had another question I was going to ask. Yeah, I think we covered most of this stuff. I do want to ask you about some of these tools that you mentioned. What tools does a PR, like what are some of the tech stack of a PR professional?
Oh, that's a great question. It's funny. I'm putting together some proposals in response to some RFPs. So I'm using Claude now to help with these proposals. And one of the pieces of advice—
I just used that today, by the way.
Yeah, one of the pieces of advice was, when you're putting your budget together, if the tech tools you're using are included in your retainers, you should let them know. So I thought, oh, that's so interesting. Oh gosh, there's a lot of great tech tools. It's like a big part of our budget, actually, as an agency, that I think, not to make a hard sales pitch to your listeners, but when you're making a decision, if you want to hire PR, and then I'll answer your question, when you're deciding between a solopreneur and an agency, a great benefit of an agency is simply that they have the resources to invest in like the amazing technology that exists to help us do our jobs. Okay, so some of the tools, there's one tool called Quoted and Profnet. Those are tools that, and then there's also, it used to be called Help a Reporter Out, and then it went defunct, and now it's like back with another name. I don't even remember what it.
Yeah, I loved Help a Reporter Out. I use it often. It was sad.
Anyway, that's like inside baseball. I won't go there. But there are like other tools like Hero would be Quoted, spelled Quoted, Quoted, and then Profnet, and then there's Press Hook. There's a lot of tools like that you can pay for subscriptions to. Some have free access and some you pay for subscriptions to. Those are the ones that are going to bring the queries into your inbox. There's one called TMX now, which I love. I'm crazy about. And then there's tools like, I use Critical Mention. Critical Mention is a huge favorite of our clients that I maybe started investing in 3 or 4 years ago, that helps us make really beautiful, comprehensive reports about potential audience, potential reach, like sentiment, like beautiful graphics. It's just a great way, especially for our clients who have to answer to a board about the investment that they're making in our services. it is a great way to show value. And I know that PR metrics can be a little bit controversial, right? Because they say, "How you reach so many people?" Like, I get it. We need something, okay?
Yeah.
And how do you sell advertising? How does TV sell advertising? With those same metrics, with those same numbers, because the estimated audience in a critical mention report for a placement in New York City at 9 a.m. is going to be different than the estimated audience for that same network in the same market at 2 p.m., right? They are pretty sophisticated. So for all of kind of the naysayer, and it's going to be different if that appearance happened at 9 a.m. Chicago or Tuscaloosa or wherever it is. So while there is some sort of chatter about PR metrics being inflated and what do they really mean, you need something, right?
Sure.
And so the tools are pretty sophisticated, and they are a great way for clients to just have something to touch and feel and to understand what the value and reach might be of the placement. Then, of course, there's tools like Cision and Muckrack and Meltwater. Those are all great databases and tools so that we're not sitting there just like using LinkedIn or Googling and reporters' email address. They help us build amazing lists. And then we also invest in a tool called Podchaser, which is an incredible database of podcasts. So listen to that list I just gave you. That's a ton of software and technology that we invest in that I think, again, when you're thinking about, okay, if I'm going to make this PR investment, is an agency worth it? Of course, I think it's worth it because we're not just doing PR from our heads, right? We're really relying on, and or relying on is too strong a word, but like almost like partnering with the technology so that we can just do that much more, be that much more efficient, and provide better results, and then give you a gorgeous report at the end of every month about what we did for you. So that's like a little, like it's all over the place, but there's really cool technology that makes PR such a cool business. And I think to myself, like, oh, maybe I need to like pivot and get into like the PR tech space and invent like a tech tool that doesn't exist that I need, but I don't really know how to do. I have to figure that out. I don't know.
I can help you with that. I'm actually doing that because there's no good reporting tool out there for marketing. They're all like, they're good in some areas and not complete. And I'm actually working on that, and I'm vibe coding it. I'm not actually coding it. I'm vibe coding it in Claude.
Okay.
So
I don't know what vibe coding is, but I love what that sounds
so
like.
vibe coding is essentially prompting to create software. So you think like a programmer, but instead of writing code, you type in English. But
that's incredible.
And so I'm a former programmer, so yeah, you have to be a little technical, but not too technical. And I usually use it as a concept, and then maybe we can raise some money, and then we can
I love it.
That's the way I'm gonna go.
I'm a former systems engineer, so my background is systems engineering, and
cloud code is a perfect place to vibe code.
Yeah. And so I say, okay, maybe I'm not a practicing systems engineer, but my agency is run like the most efficient system you've ever seen. Everything is just extremely streamlined and purposeful, as much as you can be in a business that's also like an art form, right? Yeah. And I think that allows us to be really efficient and deliver great results. But I think any kind of tech background, even if you don't use it every day, I mean, I took one class in, what was it, like C+ or something? No one even uses the languages I took classes in, but yeah, still a great foundation in how to
That's all it's about. Yeah. How to think.
Yeah. How to think. So I love that. I think that's awesome that you have that. I just never heard of vibe coding. I love it.
Yeah. It's just basically you prompt to create something, and there are tools like Claude, and then there's a bunch of other ones. There's Lovable. You can create whole brand new apps and websites in Lovable. It's amazing. So incredible. Just prompting, but there is a little bit of back and forth, and then there's API and integrations and things like that. So it gets a little technical, but still a lot easier than traditional coding.
I love it.
This has been great. I really appreciate it. I don't think I have any other questions. The tools I was really curious about myself because, again, we're not a PR agencies, but there are occasionally, like I have a dentist client that wants us to help him pitch himself to some dental podcasts and things like that. So
he should hire us.
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna pay your fees.
Well, you can use a cool tool like Podchaser.
Which
will help you create amazing lists. The tools are incredible that exist, and it's not to say that you can't just do this through old sweat equity, but it just doesn't make sense to. You're just losing time. And unfortunately, one thing about PR at the end of the day, of course, you want to
labor intensive.
Great pitches, but it's also a numbers game. Like you
Yeah.
still have to send a lot. And so
Yeah.
having tools to help you get better lists with more potential fitting reporters or hosts or whatever it might be can just help you be more successful.
Sure. 100%. Cool. So yeah, I learned a lot today because I had my understanding of PR and I just realized that I didn't fully understand it, and I know
So
it a
glad
lot
we
better
talked.
today. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
But yeah, let's conclude this with asking you a couple of questions, personal questions.
Okay, let's go.
First of all, where are you from?
I grew up in South Jersey, and we're based now in the Philadelphia area, but our team is virtual and national. I like to say
Nice.
before it was cool. And so we
Yeah.
support clients from coast to coast.
Cool. Awesome. And you help clients in the US only, right? At this point.
We have helped clients internationally. We actually worked with an Australia-based client when they had a COVID-related Bluetooth tracking product.
Gotcha.
We can absolutely help international clients who want to navigate the US media
US
landscape.
market.
I'd be lying, or at this time, we don't have a team in place that can help you navigate
Sure.
other markets. That would be inappropriate for me to suggest. But if you want to navigate this market with a really cool something or other, then we could definitely help you do that.
Cool. And when you're not being a cool, awesome PR strategist, what are you doing?
I'm a mom, so I am married and I've got 3 kids. And I also, let's see, now that my kids are a little older, I spend more time reading. I really love reading. Into fitness, I get to the gym once or twice a week. So yeah,
Cool.
I think that's about all the time I got.
Cool. Any favorite food or cuisine? Favorite cuisine or favorite food or both?
Let's see. I don't know. I say this sometimes. Food's not super important to me. Like
You're not a foodie.
I love a good meal. I
Yeah.
really do love a good meal. I don't want to eat food that's gross,
Yeah.
right? But I like cocktails, or like a good cocktail and maybe a
Okay.
little appetizer. I think my favorite. I like to order a good steak.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know. I also have a son with a food allergy. That's really transformed my relationship with food because he is allergic to eggs. So he is 7 now. That has transformed our ability as a family to eat. I'm Italian American. So like all of our Italian American recipes and
Egg-free.
traditions we can't cook them.
Yeah.
We can't go out to restaurants as easily. And I often order egg free with him in solidarity, which means a plate of grilled chicken and some French fries.
Yeah.
So I think my answer to that, not to get too deep, would have been it probably was very different before he was born. And that experience and just see food is life, right? And seeing how that's affected our ability as a family to share food, I think it's just changed things. So I'll take an old fashioned and like a little appetizer and I'll be good.
I don't drink anymore, but I love old fashioned.
I try to drink a lot less than I used to.
Yeah.
But once in a while.
Yeah, for sure. I guess my last question is gonna be a little bit weird one. If you were a superhero, which superhero would you be? Would you like to be?
I'll answer your weird question with a typical answer. I'm a working mom. I feel like I'm doing it all anyway. Like I'm doing superhero things, being a good wife, being a good mom, running a good business. I don't have a good Oh, here's like a funny answer. I used to really be into Superman. So did you have an AOL screen name when you were like, we're probably of similar generations, right?
Yeah.
Like my kids would be like, what is that?
I had AOL, but I don't remember what it was. I think I was too geeky.
My AOL screen name was of the time when you could only have 10 characters and it was with one R.
Oh,
and
wow.
because that was all I could fit. So that was my
all you
little,
could fit.
and I had a little Superman ring and I was like,
That's very cool. So you're a Supergirl.
Supergirl. What can I say? So that ages you, right? Because who has a name anymore?
Yeah, I had a different AOL handles based on different times, I remember those days. Yeah,
Isn't that funny?
it is. And how far we've come, technology, from keep trying to dial into the internet to the point that internet is dialed in you, like it's with you all the time, and then there's AI and all that stuff.
I know, it's incredible.
Yeah, sometimes I miss those days where we had our distance from technology. You would get out, and if you wanted to call someone, you had to go to payphone and call them.
I know.
You had that peace. Now it's like people texting, calling you, Slacks, emails. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah, I try to not like work nights or weekends. I try to set my own boundaries that I can, because if you don't set them deliberately and purposefully, it will just consume your whole life. And
Yeah.
that's like the great thing about for me with my kids, I like prioritize that. So I just say like,
Yeah, I'm trying to do the best, but not. I've noticed a lot of clients are just respected, but there are those that I need to put more boundary on. So
yeah,
I have to
boundary.
work on that. Yeah.
That's very hard. We can have a whole other podcast about boundaries.
Out of a boundary, yeah, yeah. I have actually, and like I said earlier, I'm very catering to our clients, and sometimes I'm like, why did I respond that email so fast? I could have taken my time in responding that, and I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah, I say we're not neurosurgeons.
Yeah,
No, we're doing PR. And of course, crisis PR is a little different. That requires real focus and attention, and time is actually everything when it
yeah.
comes to that. But when I can see that it doesn't, but I think the hardest boundary to set is the first one. And then it does get a little easier because you see the world doesn't turn upside down and your clients don't fire you and the account didn't implode. And honestly, I think sometimes your clients appreciate it too. They just want to get it off their chest at 7 at night. They don't necessarily want the answer at 7:50.
Yeah, because they are busy all day, but they just want to.
Yes.
They don't.
So yes, the hardest boundary to set is the first one. That's my little new takeaway. But I'm not the best at boundary setting either. Don't take it like I'm some expert. I'm just doing my best.
Where can people find you, Ronica?
So we're clearystrategies.com. We are at Cleary Strategies of some iteration of that on almost every social platform. Our YouTube channel for Cleary Strategies has every TV segment and podcast we've ever booked for our clients.
Wow.
So I say, if you want to see what we can do, check it out. We have playlists for every client. And then I'm Ronica Cleary on all platforms. So if you want to see a little bit into my background as a former journalist and some of my life, you can find me at Ronica Cleary, and you can find me on LinkedIn or our agency on LinkedIn and connect if you have any questions or just want to learn about our services. We try to be in as many places as possible so that we can connect with people wherever they are in a thoughtful way. So please reach out.
It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming. I found it really beneficial, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.